Hey there folks, this is Lucifer Legabord coming back at you with another video. And this is going to be another review video. And before I get into it, I want to go into a little bit of background. This is a movie review video of a very particular franchise of movies that has come out recently with a sequel. Years ago when I was a teenager, I was studying multiple different religions and just really trying to figure out where I fit in. And eventually, I came across a very particular movie that led me down the occult path, and it's done so for a lot of people, and it holds a very dear place in a lot of occultists and witches' hearts, and that movie is The Craft. Alright, so back in the 90s, there was a whole uprising of different witchcraft movements and New Age and whatnot. And Wicca and occultism really started picking up pace. And one of the breakout things was the movie The Craft that really turned a lot of people from my generation onto Wicca, paganism, and occultism in general. And yes, I actually have the window blinds open partially for natural light here in the parlor. Been working a little bit in here today and whatnot. So, before I jump into the movie The Craft, go ahead and shoot on over to the links down below, and you'll find links to my Subscribestar. If you like the stuff that I'm doing with videos on occultism, Satanism, and rituals, and STS, and all that other stuff, and you want to see more videos, such as my videos reviewing books and movies, please support me on Subscribestar. You get a lot of cool stuff as time's going on. I just started up, and I'm going to be getting things up there. And you know, if you're a subscriber on Subscribestar and support me there, you'll be able to get access to some of my content that may not be available here, or get early access to some goodies. So that'll be linked down in the description below. Please check it out. Please go support me there. Thank you all. So jumping back into this. The Craft was a movie in the mid-90s. I believe it came out in 1996. And it was about a group of 4 girls who were studying witchcraft. And through it, they began abusing their abilities. They began abusing the craft and really start stepping down a wrong road. And it results in a big clash between 2 of the coven members. Recently, this movie has garnered a sequel, and I went out and I bought it. The movie is called The Craft Legacy. So I'm going to turn on a light here. That way, you guys can all see it. Alright. So, The Craft Legacy. This picks up in our time frame, 2020, years after the original incident that occurred, and it follows a new group of girls. And one of the things I'm going to say, when I picked up this movie, I expected it to be very woke, and I wasn't wrong. This movie has a lot of woke politics in it, and I'm going to say it is very unnecessary woke politics. That being said, the base storyline behind the movie is enough where I'm hoping that they make a sequel to it. I actually enjoyed this movie, so did Diana, despite the wokeness and whatnot. There are some flaws with this movie, and I'm going to get into them in just a minute. One of the big things that I want to say is that the depictions of Dianic Wicca in this movie is very accurate in a lot of things, and there's some scenes that were cut out or cut down that is included in the deleted and extended scenes that I honestly wish they had not cut down. I honestly wish that they had kept them in there and whatnot. And because it would have put it into context. Another thing is you get this crazy little montage early in the movie, of things that they're showing in the montage is actually happening out of time frame with the rest of the movie. And it really, if you pay attention to the movie, you'll notice, hey, why is she acting like that when she did this earlier? It's because she didn't do that earlier, she's doing it after that event. Yeah, it just gets really crazy and screwy. They've really screwed around with the time frame, and it was very irresponsible editing. And yeah, it just bad. But once you get past that part and you manage to overlook it, the rest of the movie happens in a pretty continuous fashion. The acting in the movie is actually really good. It's got really good acting. There is definitely some severe cringe in the movie, though. One of the things is that it is a woke movie. It is very much so coming from a very political, agenda-driven standpoint for these characters, and obviously the director. On that part, I'm going to say there was no reason for it. It didn't motivate the story any. It really just didn't do much for it. There was one element where being woke was actually incorporated into a motivation in the story, but the rest of the other aspects of it just served no purpose and had no reason for being there. One of the things is one of the girls, and I'm going to use that term very loosely right now, is actually transgender male to female. When you are paying attention in the movie, you cannot tell which one it is until it's revealed. Had that part not been revealed at all, this individual, I would never have known. Their transition is that good, their acting is that good, and their voice adjustments have been that good. Normally, with people who have undergone transgenderism and transgender surgeries, there are hints, there are telltale signs that, and especially in the voice, that give it away. But with a person who's actually sat down and really taken the time to voice train and to adjust themselves fully, take for instance Blair White, she, who is not fully snipped down below, just to look at her, you could not tell. Just to hear her talk, you could not tell. For all intents and purposes, you can't tell that Blair White is transgender until she tells you. The same goes for this actor, whatever. I do not personally subscribe to all these gender fluidity politics and whatnot. I find it very unnecessary. And in this movie, I found it very unnecessary to have their transgenderism revealed. It didn't change, it didn't move the story along, it didn't alter anything except how I looked at the character individually, which was not something that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed looking at the character as a girl without any of the overburdened elements of transgenderism or woke politics. So they could have left that part out, and the actor is a legitimate transgender as well as the character, but they could have left that part out and let the actor portray the character as just a female, not even drawing any attention to gender politics or gender identity, and I would have found the movie just as enjoyable, and the message of the movie would still have gotten through. There is, of course, toxic masculinity in the movie that they talk about and they push through. I didn't fully subscribe to it. Apparently in the movie, honestly, there's certain elements of this movie that if they took it away from the craft, they could have thrown it in the Charmed universe perfectly fine, and it would have fit perfectly, because apparently there is warlocks that are after these witches' power, especially our main heroine. And they, of course, come together as a coven. They fight the warlock, and they defeat him. And it's like, okay, So there's warlocks, and they're trying to steal your power. That's great, grand, and wonderful. But when you actually pay attention, the warlock and what he's doing in his day-to-day life and his job and everything else, talking about the hallowed masculine and whatnot, they are deliberately throwing in your face gender politics and the whole notion of toxic masculinity. This is a problem that I've noticed in Wicca, modern Wicca, that is actually a bit of a problem. There are multiple branches of Wicca out there, and when I was a Wiccan, I was apprenticed in Alexandrian Gardnerian style, where male and female was balanced. It was a perfect balance between the god and the goddess. Whereas modern times, it has become uber feminized, where the god, the male aspects, are all but non-existent. And this is especially true in the Dianic traditions, from my understanding. And it does pose a problem when you start talking about the balance factors. Even in Satanism, we actually have female hierarchy to the Satanic traditions. A lot of people, when they hear about Satanism, they're paying attention to the male demons and whatnot, and the only female one that often comes up is Lilith. Well, in fact, there's actually several others. We have Kali, we have Hecate, who is considered the queen of witches, both in Wicca and in Satanism. Both traditions honor Hecate. We actually have Hel herself, who is the Norse goddess of the underworld, and that's spelled H-E-L, not H-E-L-L. We have the four goddesses, or four patron goddesses, or demonesses of sacred prostitution. And no, that does not mean actually prostituting themselves out. That is a religious reference. And that's Lilith and the other three brides of Samael. So we actually do have a very vast female, and that's just touching on it, a very vast female demonic hierarchy, as well as a male demonic hierarchy. And there is a balance factor there, much like the older versions of Wicca as well, that balances out the male and the female, the god and the goddess, the lord and the lady. And when we look into modern Wicca, that a lot of them have done away with the male aspects, and they're focusing solely on the female aspects, and it becomes very, very toxic feminism. And that's just not cool. And I'm not going to say that an overabundance of masculinity is good either. It's not. There is a reason why there is a male and a female. There has to be a balance. It's just like yin and yang. You can't have one without the other. So, and unfortunately, movies like this also is pushing that, and pushing the agenda that men are bad, men are wicked, they're toxic masculine. And if they want to be good, they have to become all but completely castrated and very effeminate and gay and whatnot, or bisexual at the very minimum. And this movie does send that exact message out. And I could have done away with that, personally. The one character in the movie, though, the way that they did it, it did move a little bit of the story along with this one major character, where he was a bully. They girls, I'm here, spoiler alert. If you don't want any spoilers to this, go ahead and click off now. I'm only going to be another minute or two anyway. So he was a bully, and they cast a spell on him and made him very woke. And he turned out to be a very nice guy. And it is the atypical that he has some bisexual tendencies, and that's why he was an asshole, because he was hiding it. And there was a consequence of it coming out about him getting woke, and that moved some of the story along. And that was done very well. Overall, this movie, The Craft Legacy, is a very interesting story. Would I recommend it? Yes, I would. Would I give a warning with it? Definitely. If you're not into woke politics, if you're not expecting woke politics out of this movie, don't watch it. Could you live without seeing this? Yeah, you could. Is it going to move a new generation of people into the occult and witchcraft? Possibly, but doubtful. Okay? But what it will do is it will make people interested to go see the original movie, The Craft, and that will get people interested. One of the things I will say about this, the witchcraft in this movie takes on a totally new visual appearance. They made it a lot more sparkly, a lot more flashy, and whatnot than the original movie. The original movie, the witchcraft was there, but it was very subtle. You could still tell when it was going on, and when it went on big time, they really made it look badass. This one, it's pretty sparkly, it's pretty charmed-ish type notions. That's what I'm going to say about this. My personal opinion, the movie is, yeah, one thumb up, one thumb down. I would give it about a 3-star rating, and would I rewatch it? Yeah, definitely. It has rewatchability. Does it move the overall story of the universe along? Yes, it does. It is definitely a very good way to continue the story arc of the original movie. And it follows up with one of the original movie characters, Fairuza Balk's character, Nancy, in a modern sense. And we finally get to see what's going on with her. She looks like her mental state has settled down a little bit. And she somehow had a child. And that's where this movie comes in. And like I said earlier, spoiler alerts. So, all in all, would I recommend you go watch this movie? I'm going to recommend that if you do so knowing what you're stepping into. If you don't like this movie, don't shoot the messenger. I will perfectly support people not liking this movie because of the woke politics. They are very unnecessary in it. They do nothing for the storyline. The editing of the movie at certain times is very cringeworthy, but the background story of it is a good story. The filmography is a good style. The director did very well in the filming of the movie, and the acting in the movie is actually very good acting. David Duchovny's in it. If you don't know who he was Fox Mulder from the X-Files series. We have some lovely young actresses and talented young actors who are in this movie. And I would definitely say keep an eye on those actors and actresses in their careers down the road. That's what I got for you guys today. My name's Lucifer Lake Borden. Go ahead, and if you're interested, check out The Craft Legacy. Until next time, I'm Lucifer Lake Borden. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'm out of here.